a Canadian radio sanctuary podcast.
It's the tender, but the tender man's gone. Bruce, I don't want to dwell too heavily on the religious area, but I just want to, something that someone said recently, and they were meaning it in a joking way and not meaning to be sacrilegious, but they were just saying that sometimes when you get so frustrated with life and all the hardships, not necessarily our own, but the fact that there are starving children in the world and all this chaos that goes on, sometimes you begin to wonder if life itself is someone's idea of a bad joke. If this is a test for us to learn and become better people, you often wonder why others seem to have it so much worse than we do, let's say.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to make a distinction between their spiritual well-being and their material well-being, because in many cases I think you'll find people who are deprived physically are maybe a lot better off spiritually. I don't know, I mean, I can't back that up with statistics or anything like that, of course it's not that kind of thing, but that's the feeling I have. Once you've made that distinction, well, yeah, there's a lot of terrible things in the world, and I don't know that it's just so that we can become better people. I think it's more complicated than that, and I think it also has, more complicated and simpler too at the same time, because it's more, in my mind, there's a definite evil out there, and it's, whether you call it the devil or whether you call it, whatever, the downside of the universal balance or whatever it might be, it's just there's something in there that's feeding off of all this. We have to be aware of that in ourselves, because we always, when you see the things that people are capable of doing on such a huge scale, there are people like us, the guys that would just rather go on, and in the end, if it weren't for the anger and the frustration and so on, and of course a certain amount of hyping often in the case of military people who would rather just go ahead and do their job and have their lunch and go home to their wife and kids, and wives who would rather just be able to live in peace and not have to worry about whether their man's coming home or not. I mean, I'm talking about a traditional situation here. I don't want to get into, I don't want this argument to spill over into the women's movement at this point, but you see what these same people are capable of doing to each other, and you realize that that any one of us could be doing that, and it's a frightening realization, but it's also a necessary one, because you can't really start to work for good until you realize how bad you yourself could be in a way.
I think one of the great quotes, and I'll paraphrase a bit, but was that one of the definite ways that evil will triumph and rule the world is if all the good people sit by and do absolutely nothing.
Right.
So I think there's an important message in that. I just wanted to ask you on the song Hoop Dancer, which was written back in '79 according to the liners here. Was that written around the time of the song Tokyo?
Yeah, not too, I say that hastily. I'm not sure when Tokyo was written right now, but it would have been the same trip to Japan, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Which was the last time I was there.
What's the story behind Hoop Dancer?
Pretty much already there in the song. I suppose, I've discovered, a bunch of us have sort of decided that the new drug for the 80s is jet lag. And it's great for disorienting your perceptions and shaking up your assumptions a bit, so especially after a flight like the one from Vancouver to Japan. So I was sitting there in Tokyo, looking at, or not sitting there, standing there on the street and looking at these amazing currents of people going by, and in this somewhat jet-lagged state, and just my mind started jumping around, and I started thinking about time. And time, of course, is the whole thing that song is about, and I suppose maybe because of having crossed the international date line and all that, when you get there, all your hours are completely screwed up when you arrive in a place like Tokyo from Canada. Maybe I was thinking about time and started associating time images, and I was reminded of this occasion when I saw the hoop dance that's described in the song,
guest is Bruce Cockburn. The song Bruce was just talking about, Hoop Dancer, featured right now from his album, The Trouble with Normal. Tokyo, jet lag, evening, walking. Out of my throat appears a chuckle. A true 20th century sound, a little crazed and having no soul center. The echoes of this laugh fade for a long time. With no warning, mind's eye winks like a light span and opens again on memory flashes, numberless but few. Bruce Cockburn on the New Age. What is that symbol on the front cover, please?
Well, it's George Whiteside's interpretation of the contents of the album, basically. The moon, the half moon image, is based on the fact that there's so much moon imagery on the album, in the songs. And I guess that kind of going into that sort of sense of peril and destruction at the same time, so I suppose that prompted him to have the moon burning. But it really is his own work. It really has to Whiteside, but what it means.
Yeah, it's very nice. In the song Planet of the Clowns, of course, there's a reference, stare into the moonlight. Why do you have this obsession with the moon, or is it just coincidental? Or?
Well, I don't really believe in coincidence. I wasn't aware of it at the time I was writing it. I wrote the songs, and each song was a sort of independent thing, but then when I started looking at it, I went, oh yeah, the moon's all over this. I suppose it's a symbol of distance, it's sort of cool distance, from being able to look at all this turmoil from the point of view of Tom. Of course, there's an element of longing in there because I'm not able to do that, as I don't think most of us are. And it's a symbol of that ability to sort of step outside all the tension and agony and so on.
The Trouble with Normal. Well, there's another political song of our times, I guess. What inspired that? Everything?
Yeah, pretty well. It's a pretty concrete sort of song, in the sense that it talks about relatively clearly what it's about, as opposed to some of them that are more obscure. But the point of that line, The Trouble with Normal, is it always gets worse, is that one of the most destructive ways in which we approach the world is by accepting things. You accept something as normal, and it paves the way for a worse thing to happen down the line, and then you accept that as normal because it's already happening, you can't do anything about it anyway, and so on. Things deteriorate that way. Unless we face things and try and deal with them as they come up, things do just get worse. So from that, it's kind of a catalog of the ways in which this is happening.
We become desensitized a bit, don't we?
We desensitize ourselves because it's too much to bear. I mean, you look at what's going on in the world, and especially from our point of view as beneficiaries of the world system. Even though in Canada we have our problems, okay, we basically do as well as we do because, in large part, because a lot of other people don't do very well, and most of us know that. So, you look at the things that are happening to people in other parts of the world, and you feel terribly guilty and helpless at the same time, and that's the best way to desensitize yourself, because, obviously the guilt gets too much to bear and we just turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really, I don't know, if we don't want it to get worse, we have to address ourselves to trying to find some way to ease the situation.
Who is the Candyman?
Oh, well, the big liar in the sky, I guess. The big liar under the ground, wherever he is. It's the myth of, partly the sort of so-called American dream, and partly just the myth of everything getting better, and the myth of us being, just a sort of, not only North American, but it's very sort of more typical here, I guess, because we haven't historically lived through any other approach to things. It's that sort of idea that, okay, it's all ours for the taking, and we can exploit it at will. It doesn't always work that way, as we found out with the rude shock of the big petroleum scam in the 70s, and since that time, the up and down craziness of the economic
last but not least, in the song Going Up Against Chaos, one thing I wanted to point out, I love the piano break. Is that John Goldsmith in there? Piano is nice in that song.
Yeah, I really like what he did there.
Not downplay Hugh Marsh on violin as well. Very good. Well, we wish you continued success, Bruce, and it'll be nice to have you here on the 27th in Vancouver.
I'll be looking forward to it.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The New Age with Bruce Cockburn.